Hey guys, Britt here. Welcome to End Times Bible Prophecy. Make sure to hit the subscribe, like, and share buttons. Well, should you fear artificial intelligence? Leave your comments below. What do you think? Should we fear artificial intelligence? Well, that's what the media would have us believe with all these stories we see coming out. We've seen recent interviews with Elon Musk. We've seen a 60 Minutes interview with the CEO of Google. We see all these stories about ChatGPT and artificial intelligence is on the brink of sentience. It's this thinking being that's going to plot against the human race and destroy it. Should we fear artificial intelligence? And I do not straddle the fence on this in any way, shape, or form. The answer, I believe biblically, is absolutely no on that we should fear artificial intelligence. And then also on this idea that artificial intelligence is going to take over, I would again say with absolute certainty, the answer is no. And I plan to show biblically why that is the case as we go through this. So first, I want to start out and I want to tackle this question of, should we fear artificial intelligence? And I believe biblically, the Bible tells us clearly the answer is no. So let's start right here with 2 Timothy 1:7, which says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline." And then I want to look at this verse, which I'm sure many of you use all the time to help get through times of trouble and where things look grim and bleak. This is from Psalm 23, verse 4. It says, "Even when I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid, for you are close to me. Your rod and your staff protect and comfort me." And then I want to look at this passage, John 14, verses 27 through 28. This is Jesus speaking here, and he says, "I am leaving you with a gift, peace of mind and heart, and the peace I give is a gift the world cannot give. So do not be troubled or afraid. Remember what I told you. I am going away, but I will come back to you again." Let's focus on that, guys. Jesus is coming back. And I want to look at this one last passage. This is from Isaiah 35, verses 1 through 4. Here Isaiah is talking about the future millennial kingdom. This is a 1,000-year reign of Jesus Christ on earth where Messiah rules the world. He says, even the wilderness and desert will be glad in those days. The wasteland will rejoice and blossom with spring crocuses. Yes, there will be an abundance of flowers and singing and joy. The deserts will become as green as the mountains of Lebanon, as lovely as Mount Carmel or the plain of Sharon. There the Lord will display his glory, the splendor of our God. With this news, strengthen those who have tired hands and encourage those who have weak knees. Say to those with fearful hearts, be strong and do not fear, for your God is coming to destroy your enemies. He is coming to save you. Guys, we need to be using those passages, and especially that last part that we read there, to strengthen each other in these times where, I get a lot of comments from people on these videos. I get emails. I get people saying, I'm down because I'm reading all this bad news. There's so many bad things happening in the world. Yet the Bible is saying we should be lifting each other up. We should be using the news that our God is coming back. Jesus is coming back. He's coming to destroy our enemies and he's coming to save us. So we should be strengthening and encouraging each other with those words, and we should not fear. We should be operating from a spirit of power and strength, not fear and timidity. So, unequivocally, no doubt about it, we should not fear artificial intelligence. I think the Bible makes that very clear that we shouldn't fear anything in this world. The Bible tells us to fear one thing, we should have a healthy fear of the Lord, But nothing in this world, no bad news, no terrible disasters of this world, we should have no fear because we have God on our side. Now, the media would tell us differently, right? The media would use just like I said, these recent interviews with Elon Musk, the 60 Minutes interview with the Google CEO, all these stories on artificial intelligence and how quickly it's moving, how quickly it's advancing, it's changing, it's out of control. They would have us believe that artificial intelligence is going to run amok. It's going to take on its own sentience, meaning it will have consciousness and it will decide, well, I'm going to destroy the human race, and then it will plot against us and it will be out of control. There's nothing we could do. So we should have fear about this. The Bible says that is not true. So again, I'm not straddling the fence on this one. The Bible makes it very clear when Jesus returns to earth, there are people here, right? There are people aligned against him, people who fear him and hide in caves to get away from him. So clearly, artificial intelligence does not destroy the human race. There is zero chance that that is going to happen because the Bible makes it very clear, and the Bible's track record is perfect. But again, we'll still hear this in the media, and I'm going to point out a very good piece of commentary that I read. We're going to read through some of that, comment on it. We're going to talk about, while we shouldn't fear artificial intelligence, we should be concerned about it. And we should be concerned about it not because it's going to take over and destroy the human race, but we should be concerned about artificial intelligence as a tool that can be used and appropriated by tyrannical governments to trample on the rights of the whole world population. This is what we should fear. We should fear artificial intelligence as a tool of tyranny, and I believe that is how it will be used. So I want to look at this article right here. This is from Jim Rickards, and it's titled, Should You Fear AI? Now, I titled this, Should You Fear Artificial Intelligence, rather than AI, because depending on the font that you're using, it could look like, Should You Fear Al, right? Not should you fear artificial intelligence. And while you may know someone by the name of Al, you shouldn't fear him either. The Bible makes that clear. But I wanted to make it clear, we're talking about artificial intelligence. That's what this video is about. So should you fear artificial intelligence? Should you fear AI? And Jim Rickard says, artificial intelligence is all the rage these days. You can't read headlines or turn on the news without hearing about how machines with vast computing power, access to billions of books and documents, the ability to teach themselves, and blinding processing speeds are now poised to take over the whole world. And that's what we were just talking about. He says, last night, Fox News host Tucker Carlson had an in-depth conversation about AI with Elon Musk. Musk didn't have an optimistic take. I've been studying AI and its potential for years. This is Jim Rickard speaking. He says, I recently spent a couple of days visiting the world's third fastest non-government supercomputer as part of a project to apply generalized superintelligence and AI to national security tasks. How advanced is AI getting? How close is it to approaching a rough parity with human intelligence? And what dangers does it pose to humanity? He says, we can just pull the plug, at least for now, at least. He says, experimenters now envision machines taking on a life of their own and attacking humans and civilization. But it's important to remember that if the machine goes berserk, well, you can just pull the plug. Apologists for AI capacity claim that, well, no, pulling the plug won't work because AI will anticipate that strategy and export itself to another machine in a catch-me-if-you-can scenario where disabling one location won't stop the code and algorithms from popping up elsewhere and continuing to attack. Well, maybe. But there are all kinds of logistical problems with this, including the availability of enough machines with the processing power needed, the fact that alternate machines are likely to be surrounded by firewalls and digital moats, and a host of configuration and interoperability issues. We need to understand these constraints, but for now, just pull the plug. In fact, there are a number of safeguards being proposed to limit the potential damage of AI while still gaining enormous benefits. These include transparency, so that third parties can identify flaws, oversight, a weakened form of adversarial training so the machine can solve problems without plotting against us in its spare time, approval-based modification, the machine has to, quote, ask permission before activating autonomous machine learning, recursive reward modeling, the machine only moves in certain directions where it gets a pat on the head from humans, and other similar tools. Of course, none of these safeguards work if the power behind AI is malignant and actually wants to destroy mankind. This would be like putting atomic weapons in the hands of a desperate Adolf Hitler. We know what would have happened next. He says the solution in that case would be more political, forensic, and defense-oriented. Intelligence gathering would play a huge role. Of course, that evolves quickly into a machine versus machine intelligence war of collection and deception. Imagine James Bond with a hypercomputer instead of a Walther PPK. The latest developments in AI and GPT, generative pre-trained transformers, puts us squarely in a brave new world. Investors need to be careful about relying on GPT systems for financial advice. And this is important here, he says, despite their enormous processing power. The output is never better than the inputs, and the market inputs are littered with bad models, false assumptions, poor forecasting records, and biases. So keep in mind, the processing speed of artificial intelligence is so fast that people tend to think, well, this is thinking like a human being, but it's really just operating these sets of algorithms that were programmed into it, and it may change that code. But again, its output is coming from the input that went into it, which came from human beings, and that included incorrect information, biases, all sorts of problems, which we'll talk about in a minute. Anyway, he continues on. He says, artificial intelligence is already being programmed with woke ideology, for example. You can imagine the dystopian future that a woke superintelligence could create. And here he says, a woke 1984. You're probably familiar with George Orwell's classic dystopian novel, 1984. It was written in 1948. The title comes from reversing the last two digits in 1948. So it wasn't George Orwell necessarily saying he thought that would happen in the year 1984. He just thought it would happen. This is where we're going. It says the novel describes a world of three global empires, Oceania, Eurasia, and East Asia, in a constant state of war. Orwell created an original vocabulary for his book, much of which is in common, if sardonic, usage today. Terms such as thought police, Big Brother, doublethink, newspeak, and memory hole all come from 1984. Orwell intended it as a warning about how certain countries might evolve in the aftermath of World War II and the beginning of the Cold War. He was certainly concerned about Stalinism, but his warnings applied to Western democracies also. When the calendar year 1984 came and went, many breathed a sigh of relief that Orwell's prophecy had not come true. But that sigh of relief was premature. Orwell's nightmare society is here today in the form of communist China. And here he says 1984 comes to China. China has most of the apparatus of the totalitarian societies described in Orwell's book. China is working hard on artificial intelligence. Excuse me, my voice is still giving out, guys. China is working hard on AI while also using facial recognition software and ubiquitous digital surveillance to keep track of its citizens. The internet is censored and monitored. Real-life thought police will arrest you for expressing opinions opposed to the government or its policies. Millions of Chinese have been arrested and sent to, quote, re-education camps for brainwashing. Those are the lucky ones. Or involuntary organ removal without anesthetic, the unlucky ones who die in excruciating pain and are swiftly cremated as a result. While these atrocities are not going to happen in the US, or what passes for the West these days, at least not anytime soon, the less extreme aspects of China's surveillance state could well be. And while you might not be arrested for expressing unpopular opinions or challenging prevailing dogmas, at least not yet, you could face other sanctions. You could even lose your job and find it nearly impossible to find another. Censorship. You can certainly be banned from social media. Anything seems to go on social media, primarily Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, and a few other platforms, unless you're a conservative personality or politico. That's where the censorship begins. Many conservative social media participants have had their accounts closed or suspended, not for threats or vulgarity, but for criticism of progressive views. Meanwhile, those with progressive views can say almost anything on social media, including the implicit endorsement of violence, but nothing happens. Other conservatives report being the targets of shadow banning. That's where your account is open and seems to operate normally, but unbeknownst to you, much of the network is being blocked from seeing your posts and popular features such as likes and retweets that are being truncated and not distributed. The problem is the trend is moving very quickly in this direction, and it's difficult to stop. And sophisticated surveillance technology to monitor citizens is already in place. He says, show me the man, and I'll show you the crime. For example, cameras with the latest surveillance technology can spot and match millions of faces in real time with an accuracy rate of over 99%. They're touted as anti-terrorism and anti-crime tools, which they certainly are, but as Stalin's ruthless secret police chief said, show me the man and I'll show you the crime. It's easy to see that power being abused to target everyday citizens. By the way, that secret police chief would ultimately prove his own point, as he was later arrested and executed for treason. The problem is, once the bad actors start populating the literature with misleading information and developer biases infiltrate the code, it's clear that AI can be an instrument of tyranny. In all, AI is definitely something to keep an eye on, and we should be asking important questions, but we shouldn't worry about it taking over the world anytime soon. We should instead worry about becoming like communist China. And I think that on the whole, he's correct in what he's saying here. He's saying, look, the threat from artificial intelligence is not that it's going to supersede human intelligence, decide that it's going to rule the world, it's going to eliminate human beings and take over, and now, we're no longer in the driver's seat, artificial intelligence is. That's not going to happen, guys, and we're going to get to that in a minute as to why that's not going to happen. But the concern should be artificial intelligence is a tool of tyranny, because what we've seen so far is nothing compared to what's coming. Even as oppressive as China's regime is now, and regimes like North Korea, better tools are coming in the near future. We're going to reach a point in time where we will have molecular manufacturing, and that will enable the inexpensive production of trillions of cameras and listening devices on the nanoscale. I would call them smart dust. Imagine the proliferation of this dust that just floats around. It comes in the windows, it comes in the ventilation system of your house, settles on your countertops, tables, everywhere. And it hears everything and sees everything. And then you have the processing power of artificial intelligence can sift through all that data, look for patterns, pick certain things out. Several years ago, this was well over a decade ago, there was an article in the news about Target and how Target had sent some coupons to this teenage girl, congratulating her on her pregnancy. And her father shows up at the store outraged that they would send this to his teenage daughter, and they quickly apologized. Well, then he came back later and apologized to them because they were right, that there were these algorithms which had understood that when women buy these 3 seemingly unrelated items, it turns out that they're pregnant. And therefore, they could target those women with special ads so that they would come in and start buying the things that they would need at Target. Well, you can imagine how that will be used in the future, where maybe you have an underground church, but these algorithms have determined, well, if you're one of those people, if you're an enemy of the state, you will engage in these 5 seemingly unrelated behaviors, and it'll be able to pick you out of the crowd, no matter how sophisticated you think you are in avoiding detection. That's where we're headed. We're headed to a police state that no one will be able to get away with anything, because Big Brother will be listening, hearing, and seeing everything through the use of these technologies. So that's where the concern should be. Now, I also want to address this idea of, well, artificial intelligence is going to take over. So I want to read a couple of excerpts. This is from Racing Toward Armageddon, Why Advanced Technology Signals the End Times. I'm the author of this book. You can check it out, but many of you are familiar with many of these passages, so I read them on this channel all the time. So if you just watch this channel for a while, we'll probably read through the whole book at some point. So don't worry about it. So it says, this is from chapter 5 on transhumanism. And it says, in the Hollywood film franchise Terminator, because that's the premise of Terminator, and we hear that brought up a lot recently. It says, humans create supercomputers so powerful they decide to take over. War breaks out between the humans and the machines, with an advanced artificial intelligence in control of the machines. Is this where we're headed? Is such a scenario possible? Well, some say it is, and that's what we're hearing in the media now. They say humans will soon be obsolete. I argue they're wrong. After all, who's greater, the creator or the created? While it's certainly possible for advanced computers to replace humans, that doesn't make it likely. As humans, I do not believe we'll allow our own technology to surpass us. Our collective ego is too big. Our pride is too great. Instead, we'll simply merge with our technology. Think about that. What's more powerful, advanced technology or humans in possession of advanced technology? I think the answer is clear, and I've been saying this for well over a decade, 15, 20 years now. I've been saying this very scenario from the Terminator franchise, it's not going to happen, because some human beings will determine, well, I'm just going to merge with this artificial intelligence, and therefore they would control it, because they would essentially be the artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence wouldn't be able to break free because they would be part of it, and they would use it as a tool. Now, would they use that tool for good or that tool for evil? I think the answer is clear on that as well. So I want to read this excerpt as well from chapter 14, because I think it speaks directly to what we're hearing in the news today about, should you be afraid? Should you fear artificial intelligence? And again, the Bible makes it clear the answer is no, but I think there's another reason for it. The concern should not be of the technology, but the user of the technology, and we'll get to that. So this is from chapter 14. It's titled, Is Technology Our Enemy? In 1811, English weavers faced the prospect of losing their jobs to machines. And what are we hearing about in the media? We're hearing, oh, artificial intelligence is going to come and it's going to take everybody's job. Millions and millions of jobs are going to disappear, right? That's what we're hearing. I don't think that's true either. I think it's true that some jobs will disappear, but new ones will be created. But it says some of these weavers destroyed several mechanical knitting machines in the village of Nottingham. Claiming to follow in the footsteps of a man named Ned Ludd, the protesters were given the name Luddites. This was in honor of Ned Ludd, who they said was the first to destroy such a machine in protest of his working conditions. While Ned Ludd turned out to be nothing more than a myth, it didn't matter. The protesters proudly took on their new name. In the years since, the term Luddite has become associated with a fear of new technology. It's come to mean you oppose progress. It's a term of derision. But were the Luddites right? Were mechanical weaving looms evil? Well, no. Mechanical looms aren't alive. They're objects. They aren't evil. And you know what? Other technologies aren't evil either. Computers aren't evil. Virtual reality isn't evil. And quantum computers, artificial intelligence, and molecular manufacturing aren't evil. The true source of evil. So why does technology sometimes appear to be evil? And that certainly is the case in many ways. I mean, we've seen some of the things we see on the internet. We think this is evil. The internet did this, but the internet didn't do that. So why does technology sometimes appear to be evil? The answer is simple. It's because of the end user. Technology isn't evil. We are. I'm no Luddite, and you shouldn't be either. We should embrace technology. Technology is a tool. It's not good. It's not evil. But human beings, that is a different story. We are evil. Each and every one of us is a sinner, according to Romans 3:23. And our sin is the root cause of evil. The problem isn't technology, it's our own wickedness. The darkness of the human heart is the world's number one problem. Since the Garden of Eden, every human being has been born with a sinful nature. That's Psalm 51:5. This means we're filled with evil desires, greed, jealousy, envy, pride, and a whole host of unsavory traits. Mark 7, verses 21 through 22. And the Bible says the source of all wars and fighting is the army of evil desires at war within us. James 4:1. Let's face it, we're sinners, and no technology can cure us. All technology does is provide leverage. It gives us greater power. If we use that power for evil, it's not technology's fault, it's our fault. The history of advanced technology. Don't believe me? Recent history alone should convince you. In the 20th century, we used advanced technology for tremendous benefit. We raised the standard of living for almost everyone in the world. We wiped out entire classes of disease. Productivity skyrocketed. The average lifespan increased. We landed men on the moon. We built telescopes to look at faraway galaxies. We made microprocessors and life-saving drugs. We even harnessed the power of the atom. It was a great time to be alive. But it was also a terrible time to be alive. Technology was used for evil too. Like no other time period, the 20th century showed our capacity for mass murder and destruction. Hitler, Stalin, Mao, and others used technology to systematically murder millions. We made ever more powerful chemical, biological, and nuclear weapons, and our advances brought ever more oppressive police states in many nations. Why is this? In the 20th century, advanced technology amplified our destructive nature. It magnified human evil. Will it be any different for the next generation of technology? It won't. Again, it has nothing to do with technology itself. Without a doubt, new technologies will bring great good in the years ahead, but they'll also reveal the worst of human nature. Despite all our advances, we haven't conquered human evil. we still live in a world filled with war, suffering, and death. Our sin, combined with advanced technology, makes us more vulnerable to attacks from our real enemy, Satan and his demons. Why? Because the Bible says we are not fighting against enemies in this world. We're fighting against evil rulers and mighty powers from the unseen world. Ephesians 6:12. So guys, what does this mean? It means we are sinners. We live in a world of evil and destruction. And no technology is going to save us from that. No technology is responsible for that. The only thing that can save us from that is Jesus Christ and people coming to know him, people recognizing that they are sinners, that they've fallen short of God's perfect standard, and looking to Christ who died on the cross and spilled his blood so that we could be forgiven, have reconciliation with God, everlasting life, and live with him in heaven for all of eternity. That's the good news we have, is that all this can be overcome. But people are focused on this technology. The technology is neutral. It's the end user that is the problem. So, again, we shouldn't fear AI. We should be concerned about AI being used as a tool for tyranny, which I ultimately believe it will be used in that way, and already is being used in that way, frankly. So, what do you think? Leave your comments below. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe technology is evil and we're good. If you think that, let me know. Make your case below. But I don't think I'm wrong on this. I think technology is neutral. It can be used for good. It can be used for evil. And human beings sometimes do good and sometimes do evil. We are a fallen race of human beings in dire need of a Savior, in dire need of Jesus Christ. He is the solution. So we shouldn't fear AI, but we should be concerned about how this is going to be used, because I believe that this will be one of the primary tools that's used by the Antichrist and his global government to oppress and rule over the earth. Things like being able to control who can buy or sell and implement this mark of the beast technology, being able to govern the entire globe. All of that is virtually impossible without technology on par with artificial intelligence today. So I believe that will be used, will be part of the tool set that is used to rule over the earth. But again, maybe I'm wrong. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments below. Guys, when you leave comments, when you hit the like button, when you hit the share button, when you hit the subscribe button, when you do all those things, it makes videos like this one more prominent, that gets seen by more people, and more people may come to know the biblical answer to this question we've been dealing with today. So I encourage you, make sure to hit the subscribe, like, share buttons, leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. Maybe you think I'm wrong. That's fine. Go ahead and leave that comment down there. You're welcome here if you think I'm wrong. I don't get offended. So, again, leave your comments below. Make sure to like and share this. And God willing, I will see you on Wednesday. Bye. If you want to learn more about the end times and Bible prophecy, make sure to sign up for my free monthly newsletter and get your copy of my free ebook, 7 Signs of the End Times. Just follow the link in the description to get your free book. Also, make sure to check out all of my books. Just look up Britt on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple iBooks, Google Books, Kobo, or anywhere books are sold. Thanks for watching today, and until next time, keep your eyes fixed on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith.